Hapaday, welcome to Nita Bisita. A lonely cross on this rainy day reflects the starkness and sadness that's still associated with a beautiful village that used to be on this site. Although over half a century has elapsed since its disappearance, those who remember the village, and in particular those who were residents of it, speak of it today in the present tense as, "I'm from Sumay." Located as it was in a cove overlooking Apple Harbor, Sumay was one of the most beautiful places on Guam before World War II. Archaeological findings in the cave complex nearby suggest that our Chamorro ancestors had dwelt in them for centuries before the Europeans first showed up on Guam. The Spaniards found Sumay to their liking and had a settlement there. Its easy access to Apple Harbor made it a favorite anchorage town for whalers, pirates, and privateers plying the Pacific in search of riches from land and sea. The Spaniards fortified the high cliffs behind Sumay to protect the harbor, but the fort could not even fire a round when the Americans sailed into Apple Harbor in 1898 to capture it. The Americans also fortified the same cliffs after World War I and stationed Marine Corps aircraft in the area to keep an eye on the Japanese. They mistakenly decided the Japanese were not a threat in the Pacific. They dismantled the aircraft in the early 20s without firing a shot. When the Japanese captured Guam during World War II, they once again fortified the same areas, largely with anti-aircraft guns. Those guns were fired, but so ineffectively during the battle for Guam that the American flyers were able to severely cripple Japanese aviation in the Pacific. Caught in the middle of all this was the town of Sumay, a picturesque, serene, and peaceful town whose 2,000 residents were intensely proud of their village. Not only did it have fertile soil, it also enjoyed a bountiful catch from the sea that is fronting it. It was the village first in touch with the world outside Guam. The Trans-Pacific Cable Company anchored its station at Sumay. Pan American Airways landed its China Clipper at Sumay and built Guam's first hotel there. There were many reasons for local pride. Sadly, everyone else found Sumay attractive. When the Japanese invaded Guam, they took over the village from the residents. The village was destroyed during the recapture of Guam. When the Americans returned, they took over the land where the village was, as well as surrounding areas. The village of Santa Rita was founded by the military government to placate the sentiments of those from Sumay who refused to move to other villages. This lonely sign in Santa Rita today is all that reminds us of that lovely place that ceased to exist, not because it was useless, but because it was so useful to others. During a recent hike to a wooded area behind the old Sumay church grounds, purely for sentimental reasons, we ran across these ruins of the home of Vicente J. Garrido family, complete with pockmarks from bullet shots. It was a tearful sight for those who remember earlier days. The village may not be on anyone's map these days, but is very much alive in the hearts and minds of those who used to call it home. Finally, in the most ironic twist of fate, the Americans refortified the cliffs above Sumay after its recapture in 1944. But once again, they dismantled them in the 50s without firing a shot at the enemy. The record shows, however, that those guns were used as saluting batteries to U.S. ships entering the harbor. This is Ben Blas. Join us again next week for Nihi the Bisita.